Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you warmly to this year's Safety and Operators Conference, SASOC. My name is Christian Schubert, I'm from the Media Office, and I would like to inform you about a few organizational and logistical points. You will have access to the internet via Wi-Fi as shown on the slides throughout the whole conference. However, I hope that you will not have the need to use it because there will be a lot and a few exciting contributions and discussions. Second point, we have taken care of your physical well-being during the breaks, so it will not be you will not to have to bring drinks and food into the auditorium. Third point, we would like to draw your attention to the fact that my colleagues will take some photos and videos during the whole event, and these things will later be published on the internet. But we will make sure that we present you in the best possible light. Last but not least, for those who traveled by car, exit tickets can be purchased, no I'm kidding, can be picked up at the info point up in the upper floor, but only after the official end of the event, of course. Now we come to the interesting part, and I would like Fritz and Mark to come up to the floor, and they will guide you to through the program of this morning, and we will see us later. So the stage is yours, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Christian. I would like to welcome you at the Swiss Aviation Safety and Operational Conference this year, 2024. We had the first conference 2 years ago, almost exactly the same date, 2 years ago, and we have a very interesting program as of today, and I would like to give you the floor to you, Fritz, to go to the program very shortly.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you for this SASOC 2024. Special welcome goes to our colleagues from maintenance, repair and overhaul. So for the second SASOC, we decided to invite you. You're very important for us in terms of safety and operations, and therefore we have a special event in the afternoon as well for MRO. In the morning we have speeches, and we are starting the session with my speech. Our DG is actually in one of the financial commissions of the Parliament. It's apparently an important meeting with this commission, and he will join us after the session and will hold a speech then at the end of the morning sequence. We have morning language is most common language in aviation, bad English, and in the afternoon we will then switch to the most convenient Swiss language respective to the different sessions we will have. We have the 4 speeches, then a break at 10:35, and then we come back at 11 o'clock, and it depends, then the program depends on the availability of our DG for his key message this morning. In the afternoon, after the lunch break, we will hold separate sessions: complex aircraft operations, helicopter operations, maintenance, flight schools and general aviation, etc. And you will then see at the end of the morning, you will see where these sessions will be held in the building here in the Palklet Centrum. So that's for my introduction to the organization of the day. And I will now switch to the topic, safety flight operations.
Thanks a lot, Fritz. Just the last word from my side for the opening. Beside the program, I think very important also to have the discussion where during coffee break and lunch network, and also looking forward to this interesting discussion. But now the floor is yours. Fritz, you will start with your first presentation. Thanks.
So I will start with a brief review and outlook topic safety flight operations or flight operations. As head of the division safety flight operations in FOCA, I will give you some points from my perspective with regard to the things that happened the last 2 years since we held the last SASOC here in Bern, and then some outlook items. First of all, and that's the next slide, I will just push the button. The last 2 years, we had actually the recovery phase from the pandemic crisis. You all know that. It was called restart of the pandemic. When we look at the pace of the restart, it was much faster than expected. We will be in 2024, we will be back to almost 2019 levels in terms of international operations. And obviously, with that pace of recovery and restart, we had our main issues in the area of capacity, availability of personnel, availability of equipment, availability of infrastructure, availability of spare parts, etc., etc. It's the most challenging thing, and during this phase, building up very fast an operation out of almost zero operations in 2020 was a challenge. The system proved to be resilient during this phase. I would like to thank you all for your efforts to keep the system safe in a period where we had a drastic change in output over a very short time span. Resilient operations was very important, and with the good outcome of this phase, we had an economic recovery. We had many companies with good results in the last year, in 2023. That's very important in view of future challenges and in terms of safety assurance that operators have the financial means to take the necessary measures to have a safe and resilient operation. So that's actually a positive review of the last 2 years in terms of restart. Nevertheless, a post-pandemic crisis analysis is very interesting. Quite often we forget things and we look forward, but we have to take some lessons learned from this phase, and in the next pandemic we will do many things differently to the way we did it within the period of 20 to 22. But actually a positive review from my side in terms of flight operations, but just transitioning from pandemic to the next challenges, we saw the emerging regional military conflicts. Started almost 2 years ago, and it's spreading now all over the world. We have in all these areas, we have security and combined safety issues. It's no longer possible to say we have security or safety, we have combined issues. One major issue at the moment is navigation, in particular GNSS navigation. I put this Flight Radar 24 chart on a slide on March 21st. When you take the slide today, it's quite different. The red area is much larger, and we see a lot of activities in the electromagnetic domain all over the world in the areas concerned by the military conflicts. And obviously we have to prepare us for more to come, and we have actually to build up, and we need robust backup procedures in terms of navigation and in all the other areas concerned. And we have to prepare ourselves for new unexpected threats. We don't know now, but with the overall situation, we will see new things that we don't know about today. And to be clear, there will be no fast recovery from regional military conflicts within some years. I expect that regional military conflicts will be a long-term trend for the coming decades. And we all hope that it will be regional in the future. So that's a challenge in international aviation, and you will all operators in that area will be challenged by this, and it will affect safety, of course. When we look at our more local operations in Switzerland, actually we had a tough start in the first quarter 2024. We had two fatal accidents, and we had several severe incidents at the beginning of the year. However, I do not agree that helicopter operations or GA operations in Switzerland are unsafe at this moment. When we look at the more long-term data, the data does not confirm a general negative safety trend. My colleague Mark will later on show you some details. And we are not very happy to jump on first and easy conclusions with regard to these events. We will have a close look with the operators at the outcome and at the root causes of these events and learn the lessons from the specific occurrences and improve our safety management and risk assessment processes in order to avoid future incidents in the same areas. So that's from my side. When we look at 2023, I have a positive review as well in terms of activities in helicopter and GA operations in Switzerland, and we will tackle the challenges for the coming years. And obviously there are many issues on the agenda, as you all know. When we go further in upcoming topics now, first of all, it's actually not about safety. It's in the greater context of climate change and measures in Europe to be taken in the future decades. We have Refuel EU, a regulatory package from Brussels with regard to dealing with fuel in aviation. Obviously, this is not a safety regulation, and to use less fuel is good in terms of environment and economic, but little fuel in the tank is a safety issue. So there's a trade-off, and we have to be careful that we have a good trade-off and that safety is not affected by activities in the area of environment issues. For the GA community, there will be a transition to unleaded off-gas fuel till 2030 approximately, where there's mainly a logistical issue. We have now specifications, and we have even fuel companies that are able to produce, but then the logistics about aviation gasoline fuel will be the task for the coming years. I would like to put some emphasis on this refuel regulation, the 2405. It's actually in force now in the European Union, but not in Switzerland. From 1st of January 25, there will be an obligation to mix 2% of sustainable aviation fuel into the fuel provided by the fuel companies. And then there will be a reporting from these fuel companies, and there are some reporting tasks for international operators in terms of usage of SAF and in terms of tankering practices. In Switzerland, it will be a different schedule. We have now our new Swiss CO2 legislation in the so-called Referendumsfrist at the moment. So the law is not the process of law legislation is not completed today. If it enters into force beginning of 25, then there will be negotiation with the Commission with regard to adopting this regulation in Switzerland, and then a comité mixte, then Switzerland might actually adopt the regulation, and then it will enter into force in Switzerland as well. But it will not be at the beginning of 25. That's for sure, with that time schedule. And there will be an ordinance to be published with a consultation ahead. And the current plan is to limit application of 2405 to operations at the Zurich Airport and Geneva Airport. That's mainly an issue for international intercontinental operators out of Switzerland. It will be as well for Bâle, of course, but in Bâle, French regulation and French processes will apply. So that's for refuel aviation in the European Union. We had quite a few questions about that in your feedback to the invitation for this conference. Another topic on the agenda is Part IS. We had 2 years ago, we had 2 presentations in SASOC 22 about Part IS, about the content. We would like to come back to this topic today as the entry into force is closing in. Actually, the FOCA implementation project on our level is running. We will adapt a pragmatic approach. Part IS is an aviation safety regulation. So information security in terms of your business, how you protect your IT system against cyber threats, is a commercial decision you take in your companies, and it will not be regulated through Part IS. It's about the domains concerning aviation safety, and obviously there will be a derogation, a possible derogation process that companies without a specific risk in the safety area for information security will have the possibility to derogate. And we are currently preparing our derogation criteria to give you some hints in a guidance material how to apply and how criteria will be applied when responding to your derogation requests. So it will not be for all companies. My colleague Gian Mario Giacomelli will have a further insight in this regulation in his presentation, actually. So that's about Part IS. When we look into our safety oversight business from our perspective of flight operations, we will see a major change in the coming 2 years till the next SASOC. We will introduce our digital licensing information system. Rollout will be in 25, maybe the first elements end of 24. A fully digital process end to end. We will actually change the way we work in terms of flight crew licensing and in terms of maintenance personnel licensing and ATC personnel. We will actually, at some point get rid of the well-known and well-liked forms. There may be 100 forms we have today to deal with the licensing process. We'll go through a web access portal, and the solution will be integrated end-to-end, including training organizations and operators. Second topic we put a lot of emphasis on is coordinated management system oversight to make it more efficient and to help as well the operators to have less effort in terms of our oversight activities and a better outcome, and actually as well a better coordination inside our office to coordinate these activities in safety oversight. My next topic is technology. It's very important. It's a very interesting phase at the moment. We see some sometimes disruptive changes in technology. You all know that. Things are happening at the speed nowadays we couldn't imagine a few years ago. Affecting flight operations and safety, we have actually a very fast and very interesting development in virtual reality technologies, offering new opportunities in all areas of aviation in the training domain. FOCA is actually strongly promoting the application of simulation, virtual technology in training. And we have now new possibilities in the area of helicopter operations and in the area of single pilot aircraft operations to get a step further. That's a real safety issue, to have a really efficient training without risk. And that's our common interest, to avoid training accidents. It's really unnecessary. If we train people, we should train them to be proficient and not kill them by training them. And technology is a key. And we know that from multi-pilot operations for decades now in international operations, and we can now enhance this in our local and small aircraft and helicopter operations. Second technology trend is about advanced air mobility. A lot of projects, many projects, few hundred projects. First of them now entering into the certification phase, and obviously that's the challenging part of the game. So we will see how fast these new devices, VTOL capable aircraft, VCA, will appear in the operational environment. Providers, startup companies are very optimistic in terms of the schedule. Certification processes will show the reality, actually. Third topic concerning in multi-pilot aircraft operations, the rulemaking process for reduced crew operations was launched a few days ago. So it's about flying large aircraft temporary with single pilot. Obviously, as the safety is a main concern in this topic, by reducing the cockpit crew in large aircraft by 50%, it's not a detail actually. We are involved from FOCA side, and this rulemaking process will take several years. And there is a pressure from European manufacturers to advance with a high pace, but we have to be very careful when we do that step, because it's a major issue to go to a single pilot operation in large aircraft. To conclude my speech, I would like to put some emphasis on the future generation of aviators. There's a buzzword nowadays, Fachkräftemangel is a strange German word, but it's an existing issue. Looking at the pipeline of next gen, it's now starting to be generation alpha after generation Z, actually, or C. And we see that's the chart. Registrations for initial and aeronautical training in Switzerland. Today that's called SFAIR. Before it was FOS, and we have the chart from 1980 to 2023. We see that we have a steady increase in the trends of young people at the age 16 to 20 in aviation and flight operations. And there is a very good potential in our society for our future flight operations activities. When we look at the size of the demographic size of the age groups and compare, then today we have more people interested in relation to the size of the demographic group than in the 80s. And that's really a very good outlook. But obviously, as a new generation with a new mindset, as we had a different mindset to the previous generations, there are no good or bad generations, there are new and older generations. So are all digital natives, and obviously we need other methods to recruit and train them. I remember 1987 in Bern, our instructor in the course explained the training concept by using a German phrase, der Weg nach oben führt unten durch. This concept will not prevail in 2024, obviously. But there is a good outlook, and I'm very optimistic for the future of flight operations in Switzerland, especially by having a new generation appearing on the screen. And that's to conclude my speech of this morning with an optimistic outlook. Thank you very much for your attention. Now I would like to hand over to Gianmario Giacomelli, Head of Safety Division.
When I worked in aviation industry 25 years ago, we rudely named FOCA safety inspectors or airworthiness inspectors tire kickers. My name is Gianmario Giacomelli. I'm the head of the safety division aircraft. In 1999, I started my career at FOCA as a tire kicker, as an airworthiness inspector, of course. Then I moved 2 years later to the type certification section, where I worked as a project certification manager and as an avionics and electrical specialist. Then in 2011, I was appointed head of the section design and production. And finally, 2016, I was given the chance to lead the safety division aircraft. The main scope of the safety division is divided into two specific areas, the initial and the continuous airworthiness. In initial airworthiness, we take care of product certification and production. For example, Pilatus design organization approval and the production organization approval. In continuing airworthiness, we take care of product and organizational surveillance or oversight. For example, the Swiss CAMO and the Part 145 maintenance organization. We have roughly 70 employees in our division, including engineers and inspectors, which ensure compliance and conformity with the airworthiness standards and regulations. Their role is crucial in maintaining independently the safety and integrity of the aviation industry. We oversee a total of 3,137 aircrafts, 2,752 licensed personnel, and 242 organizations. On this chart, you see the distribution of our airworthiness safety risks. I will not go into details, but one message Fritz gave before is that we don't see a negative trend, so we keep monitoring all the incidents. We classify them, and you can see especially the non-commercial operation, which is more the general aviation. It is higher than expected, but it's monitored. In our opinion, it's under control. In product certification, we see a clear trend towards advanced avionics features. The introduction of a safety feature to cope with emergencies like auto-land, the enhancement of the situation awareness like iconspicuity, and digital assistance to reduce workload like human IA, collaboration to support minimum crew operation. but also a positive trend in the experimental area. We had an E-Slim project, which was a development of a 4-seater electrical aircraft with specially designed power electronics and modular battery system. And we will have soon H2 project, which will be a development of a drivetrain based on hydrogen, which will be installed in a light sports aircraft. The ETH provides students the opportunity to take part on a focus project. Over the course of an academic year, students have the chance to prove themselves in the real world of engineering. The self-funded projects are realized in close collaboration with the industry, and we are part of it. Such initiatives will also help to tackle the Fachkräftemangel issues we have for the moment. And as an authority, we also do rule-making. However, the intent is not to over-regulate, but to provide a playing level field with new business opportunities for our industry. According to the current legal situation, foreigners cannot register their aircraft in the Swiss registry in principle unless they are resident in Switzerland and the company is registered also in Switzerland. However, for commercial aviation, we can deviate from this requirement. For the cases where the aircraft owner is a foreign leasing company, when the Swiss operator can demonstrate that it leases the aircraft is operated for more than 6 months. In the future, we will propose to remove the exemption solely for commercial aviation under the Article 3 of the Aviation Ordinance, so that foreign owners without a registered office residence in Switzerland can now also register the private operated jet aircraft in the same way as foreign owners leasing constellations. However, to prevent Switzerland from becoming the Panama of aviation, an internal relationship is required. So the operator will have to be based in Switzerland and the jet must be predominantly operated from Switzerland. We hope that this revision will open up a wider range of activities for the industry. I'd like to give you also a quick overview of our digitalization efforts within FOCA. We have established a roadmap for the digital FOCA. In my area, we have defined 3 digital circles, and I'd like to show you one of it in more detail. Don't try to study the diagram, it's for visualization purpose only, but what is the intent? In future, we will be able to provide operators with the digital certificate of airworthiness. The document will have an official seal and a QR code on it. The document can be then printed or loaded on the EFB. With the digital official seal, the legal bindingness of the document can be proven, and in the field, by scanning the QR code, the validity of the document can be demonstrated. So there shouldn't be any problem depending on the type of operation and the location you have will be probably inspected by SAFA. An update on the EASA Part IS, Fritz mentioned it already. I have just a few slides, I will not go into detail. The recap from the SASOC 2022 was presented from the project manager of FOCA. I invite you to visit again the YouTube presentation. By clicking on the link on this slide, you go directly to the presentation. And the regulation as is, and there is a difference between the scope for design, organization, production, aerodromes, and apron management. Soon there will be also a ground handling service. Their opinion is ongoing. Different applicability date for the 2 rules, but the objectives are identical and the rules, the content is the same. It's only a split of the scope of applicability. And as a reminder, the applicable dates for compliance, we have tried to, the blue bulkhead you see is the way we would like to handle your application in the future. So we have planned to have for the 1645 rule a 7 months period for application and approval, and for the 203 rule, which most of you will have to apply for, it's an 11 months application period. Again, it's an estimate, so we have to do some internal coordination before we can communicate to the industry when we are ready to start with the approval process. Let's talk about the important topic. Fritz also mentioned it on his slide before, derogation. The paragraph 200E in the rule allows the organization to request from being exempted in implementing an ISMS, and therefore most of the organizational provision of Part IS. Such a request needs to be made individually per organization. An organization needs to provide evidence with a risk assessment carried out by the organization itself or a third party. That its activity does not pose any potential safety impact in case of an information security incident. Here I would like to stress the fact that small is not equal to low risk. So the size of the organization may be an additional indicator or parameter for assessing the derogation request, but it's not a sufficient factor. There are numerous examples of small business which could potentially cause a safety impact in case of an information security incident. Last but not least, the authority determines acceptable evidence for granting derogations, and thank you. And we are aiming to create a straight process for applications for derogation, so that we have a standard way to assess them and to approve them if acceptable. Last but not least, safety state. EASA is preparing this on-site event in November, open to the whole aviation community. The focus is set on lessons learned and experience shared from early implementation efforts by pioneering organization. So it's open to all of you. Go and talk with people and get some feedbacks and experience, so that the process will start easier as probably expected. With this, it concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gianmario. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, but that's good. We're going to have a coffee break in a few minutes. I would like to give you some information about the occurrence reporting system, and also about the topics we're going to discuss in the afternoon session. So I'm going to start with the data information knowledge issue. We have published the new annual safety report 2023 yesterday at the FOCA homepage. Thanks a lot also to the communication staff which were supporting us very good in the last couple of months. Second topic, safety culture and just culture. So let's start with these slides. That's a known management dilemma that you have. We have resources, limited resources on one side, on the protection side, but also on the production side. This is an equilibrium, and as a safety manager, we have to ask ourselves, are we still in balance? And are we still in balance tomorrow? And we have different expectations. We have expectation from society, from politics, We have expectation on this side from the customer, from also from the shareholders, and you have a lot of economical pressure. And one of our core tasks is to ask ourselves every day, are we still in balance? And that's why we have to look. Have to have a look at the data. And when we start with this fatal accidents and serious incidents data in the last couple of years, we have done quite a good job. We have decreases of this number. We have the number of fatal accidents in the last couple of years, also as a rate per 10,000 movements, so that's a good sign. Also here with the serious incidents, number of serious incidents, we had a decrease. We know that the first quarter 2024 was not good. We had already 2 fatal accidents. We will have a look further on, as Fritz was also already mentioning, that we have to investigate this. We shouldn't jump into conclusion. We should find out what are the causal and contributing factors. But now, if you have a look at this chart, is this just coincidence? Is it maybe the law of small number? Or is it really the result of our efforts? That's the question I think we cannot answer, but at least we should find some signs or some answers or part of them. So when we look at the occurrence reporting system according 376/2014, this is the baseline we have. We had a lot of, or we have an increase of occurrence reports. We also have an increase of occurrences. Again, here the question, is that a bad sign? Is it less safe? Or is it just an improved reporting culture? Or is it both of them? So let's have a deeper look into the data. When we start with the aeroplane ops, I'm going to start on the left-hand side with this chart. We have on one axis the severity, and on the other axis number of incidents. We have seen last year, 2023, 5 top safety issues. So that's abnormal runway contact, meaning long landings, even veer-offs or runway excursion, also in general aviation. We have here a deviation procedure from checklists, flight parameter exceedances, or also wind shear turbulences, typically around 100 incidents per year, but most of them with low severity. And what you can see on this chart, also Fritz was mentioning this topic, we have a big increase of GPS malfunction, meaning GPS jamming incidents. How does it look like in the last couple of years? We do this comparison 2019 until 2023. I would say we are quite stable with these 4 top safety issues, but as you can see, we have a big increase here with regards to GPS malfunction incidents. How does it look like with the helicopter sector? Again here, same chart, severity, number of incidents. We have absolute numbers here. In 2023, we have defined those 4 top safety issues: collision with cable or wire. We did actually a risk assessment last year with this topic, and we came to the conclusion that we are in the acceptable or tolerable sector in the risk matrix. Then we have a further top safety issues with injuries due to sling load operation and loss of load. And still we have a number of occurrences last year, 2023, with laser attacks. On the right chart, you see absolute number, and we had this topic, I remember last Swiss Aviation Days. We still are dealing here with absolute numbers, so it doesn't help to find here a clear risk picture. And we are elaborating this together with SAA to improve this system, to have a better big picture, risk picture in the future. How does it look like in the technical sector? We have also here, again, the same chart, severity, high severity, low severity, and number of incidents. Typically, you have lower severities here in this domain. That's mainly due to redundant system in the technical section. And we have different categories like the aircraft environment, meaning smoke, smell, fire, where we have about 50% of no failure found, which is quite high. We have a flight control system malfunction, and I would also show you this aircraft maintenance production design that's exceedances of maintenance limits, or also the wrong installation of components, including FOD. What you also can see, this propulsion fuel system malfunction, also including the ROTOX related issues last year and then also in 2022. So when you have a look at the right-hand chart, again, rates per 10,000 movements, you can see an increase, a slight increase in the last 3 years. But when you compare this with the years 2016, 17, 18, which were about the same level up here, we do not have that big increase except this here, the aircraft maintenance, production and design. And this is mainly due to post-corona reason and also because of a lack of staff. So when we include also the ATM and the airport-related issues, we can say that we have an increase, a negative trend with regards to airbox incidents, but with low severity. We have a big increase in GPS jamming incidents. We also had several incidents in Zurich, Geneva, but also abroad with wrong baggage cargo loading, which we have to check and analyze what are the reasons behind. And we've also seen some IT system relevant incidents with safety impact, not only at Skyjet, but also with other companies. What we also see, we do not have a negative trend with regards to airboxes between aircraft and UAS, if you have a look at the last 5 or 6 years. We also don't see a negative trend with regards to bird strikes, and also not a negative trend with fatigue-related incidents with safety impact. So these are the operational safety risks. When we talk about the systemic safety risk, I have listed here five topics. First of all, we know the potential risk of a mid-air collision within or close to the TMA Zurich or at specific hotspots in Switzerland. We know these hotspots also from these different working groups we have, also in the airbox analysis board. Then we have a potential risk for ground collision due to the complex operation at the Zurich airport, especially between departing landing aircraft and taxiing aircraft. We just had an incident, I was also in the media yesterday in New York, JFK, with the Swiss aircraft, and we still have to have a closer look at those risks. For that we also have the runway safety team installed at Geneva and at Zurich airport with the runway incursion investigation team. The third item, the various threats in crisis areas, was also already mentioning by Fritz. I'm talking about different closures of airspaces like Iran, Iraq, but also dealing with risk assessment, even on a daily basis, when Swiss is flying, for instance, to Tel Aviv, or from tomorrow on again to Beirut in Lebanon. Then I have a fourth point. I have listed like this: a know-how loss of baby boomer because of retirement. I think some of you are also sitting here in the room, and this also in conjunction with I would say reduced resilience of Generation Z. I'm not quite sure if I'm correct here, but I would also mention here, like Fritz was mentioning, it's not a good generation, bad generation. It's just a new generation, different generation. They have different expectations, for instance, when it comes to work-life balance issues, for instance. And last but not least, as a safety person, I would like to mention this fast-paced regulation environment. After the cool-down period of 20 and 21 of EASA, it has increased again. It's not just the number of new rules and regulation, but it's also the issue of the extensive documentation we get for us as the regulator, but also especially for you in the industry. So as a conclusion, we don't see any blind spots like the NLR report was mentioning 4 years ago, but I know we don't know what you don't know. But I think the weak signals are omnipresent, very important. We are in close contact, or I'm in close contact also with you as a safety manager to have this discussion, to see any potential weak signal as early as possible. But also at FOCA we do not have a directional change with regards to the main safety issues when it comes to risk and performance-based oversight. So we don't have a shift. I think we are still dealing with the same issues, and additionally with GPS jamming and spoofing issue. We also know about the systemic risk and issues, that these mitigation measures last a long time. We know that from Zurich, due to political reasons, political constraints, and due to long legal proceedings. So I think that's very important for us as a safety manager, that we make sure that these mitigation measures which are in place today, that they are strong enough and robust enough. And for me, very important here to say safety culture is paramount, and that brings me to the next main topic of this morning session, but especially for the afternoon session. The safety culture, a safety culture at Aviation, and I think you know all these expressions. We have the four main elements for a safety culture. We have the just culture issue, we have the reporting culture issue, a learning organization, learning culture, and last but not least, that we have a well-established and implemented risk management at the regulator, but especially at the industry. And those are different dependencies between those four elements. We also know that it is slow and gradual development. It has a lasting impact on safety level, and very important, the personal conduct and behavior. And I think this is very important. It has to be a mindset issue. It has to be part of our DNA at the regulated, but also in the industry. And it starts from top management, which has a model role function here. It's the so famous walk the talk issue. Goes further down to the middle management and further down to the front end staff. And also in this organizational context, I would like to mention that we're talking about these four different P's, so the philosophy, policies, procedure, and practice. And it's not only about code of conduct, mission statement, policy manuals. Much more important, and that was also learning coming out of the NLR report of the U-52 accident, that it has to be on the front end stuff. And I like this expression here. That means that that's the way things are done when nobody's watching. And I think that's a constant re-evaluation of your own culture, of our culture. And that brings me to the next topic. We had a bad example, or we still have a bad example in our industry. You could read a lot of that in the media. We had 2 aircraft accidents of Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines, and we had additional serious incidents. And also when we see this all this hearing in the U.S. Congress, I think a lot of the trust is gone so far. Not only the consumer, but also in Washington at Capitol Hill. We also saw the maximum return. I think this equilibrium was not in balance anymore between protection and production. We still see a lot of quality defects and the don't care mentality. And I would like to discuss this with you in the afternoon session. We will have this Boeing case study to try to find out what are the contributing causal factors, how did it come that far, and are there any learnings and possible takeaways for our own organization. And the second topic of this afternoon session, I will do some advertisement for the afternoon session. Second topic will be the just culture issue. Rita Dubach will give us an update also about possible adoption in the aviation law and in criminal law in Switzerland in the next near future, I'd say. And we also will have two cases where we discuss together. We're going to do the substitution test together and to try to draw this famous red line to find out if it was an honest mistake or if it was a deliberate violation with gross negligence. So I'm looking forward very much. I'm glad to have this interactive session this afternoon, open discussion with you to try to find out and to elaborate this. And with these slides, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. So now the next session will be the coffee break. We are 10 minutes ahead of schedule. So I would propose to have a 30 minutes coffee break, and please be back here in the room at 5 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dominic Schibli. I'm an avionics certification engineer working for Gian Mario Giacomelli. And we got some questions for various topics, and 3 were picked. So one of the questions was, what's about GPS interference? So I'm going to show you a little bit. I cannot go into all the details, so I try to be like on a medium cruise level to not confuse everybody, but also to say a little bit of the details. What I really would like is at the end of the day, if everybody in here can name the difference between jamming and spoofing. It's really not the same, and it's a lot of confusion going on between. The jamming is really when you lose the GPS position. And I stole the words from OHB. You see later what the company is actually doing. They say that it's an intentional attempt to interrupt the GNSS services. Well, it's not always intended. Sometimes you have the jamming also out. But at the end of the day, you don't have a GPS position. That's jamming. On the spoofing, however, you have a wrong position. And normally you don't know that you're wrong. So spoofing is really what you don't want to have. If you just lose it, you can go with an alternate means of navigation, but the spoofing is the challenging bit. As said before, jamming and spoofing, that can also happen unintentionally. You all heard about the story where you have a delivery truck, driving too close to an airport and unintentionally is jamming the GPS signal. He mainly is doing that his bosses cannot track him where he has to drive through. So that's why this happens. But more common is also that you do some testing in the hangar with some avionics test equipment, and the hangar door is still open, and you start to see wrong signal and sometimes even misleading signals. Altenrhein is, for instance, known. There is a hangar very close to the taxiway, and often you lose GPS position or even have a wrong GPS position. At the moment, we don't have these captions in the aircraft. Maybe it's coming soon. You as a pilot, you don't know that you're jammed. Here, it's a similar map that Fritz already showed before. I don't go now in the internet to see it live, but basically you can zoom the map in and out, and you see all around the world there is the most activities, but it's really massive, especially in this area here and here. What is EASA doing about it? You probably are aware that EASA has this safety information built out, and that gets regularly updated. Last time it was on the 6th of November 23, where they share all the information they have with you. Gives, as an operator, some guidance, what you can do if you have jamming or spoofing. But what probably not many people in here know is that there's also a CORI. Don't know if you know what that is. CORI is basically whenever there is an airworthiness issue, EASA sends out CORI items to the TC holders. So that one here, but no, you don't need to read it, but basically this went to all large aircraft manufacturers, and they got a task to identify all the systems on their aircraft that rely on GNSS, and then identify the system failure modes that the system can have, and with this, to elevate also the severity, what can happen if you have this wrong position. As we are all aware, it's not just the navigation, basically the position that is wrong. GNSS is going into all the subsystems. If you want to remember one slide of my presentation, maybe that's your slide that you could remember. Again, GPS jamming. What can you do against it? You can just go to an alternate mean of navigation. So that's DME, IRS at the moment. With spoofing, first of all, you need to detect it. So you need to know that you're spoofed. And you would think, well, I don't mind because I have an IRS system or a DME in my aircraft. But keep in mind that when we went to the RMP AR procedure, avionics companies started to update the IRS position at once a second to basically give the best possible starting position. When you lose your GPS during an RMP AR approach, that you will have the 1-2 minute time to still make a missed approach proceeds on the RMP. So some avionics companies did it better than the other. And it's really an issue to also, if you have an IRS system, that you not basically start with the wrong position. All the major operators in here, they already adopted the procedures. So if you know that you fly into an area of possible spoofing, you have countermeasures that you take. So you basically disconnect the GPS from the IRS. What can we do? In the short term, I think what we really should consider is a kind of, like we have for the wind shears. You know, all around the airport and the runways, you have some wind shear measurement units. And if wind shears are detected, they get announced through the crews in approach. And I think we should have a similar system also basically protecting the approach paths. I'll show you some pictures later. Some companies say, like AirTax, they have some onboard detection system. It's a bit more difficult to do. In the midterm, we should consider more than one system. So the Galileo, of course, it's there, but it's not really used in aviation yet. And the problem is one frequency. So if Galileo main frequency is on the same frequency as the GNSS system, it's not much helping with this jamming event. In the long term, we need to make the GPS more robust. There is various idea how you can do it, but it's not easy, and you all know, since 5G, how long it takes to have equipment TSO'd in the aircraft to upgrade to newer ones. Another possibility is to use alternate means of navigation. So some of you still know LORAN, so maybe we should go back to eLORAN. Magwar is a technique where you kind of want to find your position with regards to the magnetic field, but that only works in the mid latitudes. We have also issues with high latitude operations and various variations, so that would not work for all the world. The reason I mentioned OHB, so they know that I show you those slides, they were actually in PL a few weeks ago, and some of you were also there, and they showed us some possible solutions, what we could do. And this is now this GDOS system. You see the different steps, so you need to monitor. Just jump one slide back. So if you have this airport, and you would have multiple stations knowing where they are, so it's very easy to detect the jamming and the spoofing event. So jamming, yeah, it is lost. Spoofing, it will show you, oh, you're not here, you're over there, so you immediately can recognize that. And jumping back, so you detect it, you can alert it. Sometimes it's troubleshooting required. As I said before, it's not always intentionally. Sometimes we have, like little cameras or something, VLAN devices that actually distribute. And if it happens the whole time, we can also do some evaluation on it. These little boxes, they are quite little. There are different variants of it, but this could be a solution for the short term, how we could detect it. Some links when you want to look at the presentation later on. And this is the end of the presentation for GNSS. Don't know if you have time for questions now or if you should do it later. Later, okay. So, completely different topic. One question was, so if I'm an operator of a United States produced aircraft like a Gulfstream here, and I get a service built there, I just took a coffee machine because we all like coffee, and that coffee machine would need to get out and get a new one in. Can I just reuse the service built there from Gulfstream, or do I need to have this validated by EASA? What you need to know is the service built there actually is just a container where the TC holder provides you some data. And the baseline underneath this service built there is actually a design change. It's something like this in the EASA world. So somebody had to certify the new coffee machine in your Gulfstream. If that was the TC holder, he quite likely will produce a service built there and tells you how you need to remove the old coffee machine, put the new one in, and so on. You all know that. But the question always comes up, can I do it in Europe, even if the aircraft was, or the TC holder is in the United States? So you need to find out if that baseline change is only FAA approved or also EASA approved. Don't read it, very complicated. You can do it, you can find it out, but you lose a lot of time. Basically, the EASA and the FAA have a technical implementation procedure where all those details are described, which changes are automatically accepted. And there is indeed some basic changes that if they are done by the design holder, so that can be a TC or an STC, that EASA will automatically accept those changes without you need to apply for it. But how can you know that it's a basic change? Because you can go through all these paragraphs before, and then you somewhere come on an SCI list, so that's like where EASA and FAA still have some differences. And then you would need to go in that list and check if your coffee machine is not part of that list and so on. So very complicated, and long story short, I think really you should insist to have on the service built as a clear statement if that is FAA approved or also EASA approved. And if a TC holder and STC holder is not doing it, well then look for another manufacturer. It's really hard for you to do that. Okay. Also there I give you the link to the revision 7 of the EASA tip. Mark, you want to?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, we try to cover all the questions afterwards together.
Yeah.
So coming to the last session before a Q&A session in around 10 to 15 minutes. I would like to give you some information about AI and regulation in aviation. I do that on behalf of Markus Farner. He's a single point of contact if it comes to artificial intelligence in aviation. So where are we today with AI in aviation? According to the FAA, EASA is in terms of AI in aviation 3 to 5 years ahead of FAA. EASA published the first AI roadmap in 2020 and has a second edition in 2023. The first edition already contained the 3 levels of AI applications, which are level 1 AI, assistance to human. Level 2 AI is the human AI teaming, and level 3 will be the advanced automation. This finalized guidance for level 3 advanced automation will be, the application is foreseen for 2027. So regardless of the fact that many US companies are active in the field of AI, the FAA only started developing the roadmap in 2024. So, very complicated. The EASA regulation concept is based on the EC ethic guidelines for trustworthiness analysis. This was published already before Corona in April 2019. So here you see all these different blocks of the European Commission ethical guidelines. Some elements of the AI trustworthiness analysis are learning assurance, data recording, operational explainability, for instance, human AI teaming, or as well the AI safety risk mitigation. So beside the more technical aspects like safety assessment, information security assessment, also ethics-based assessment are required under the EASA philosophy. This is a field of open discussion between the US and Europe, as the US industry is pushing against any ethical requirements in a technical domain. So how does it look like with the artificial intelligence regulation at FOCA? Internally, FOCA is conducting initial tests and developing ideas on how AI can make our work more efficient. I think this is something that every organization is doing nowadays. Rules on the internal use of AI are being drafted by, I use the German term, BOCOM. So BOCOM is in the lead when it comes to internal regulation with the federal department. This makes sense as new technologies are usually not first used in aviation. However, this must be carefully planned and introduced as existing regulations such as data and privacy protection, but as well principle of publicity must be observed. We are aware at FOCA AI in aviation will be first used in the air traffic management and in the aircraft technology sector. FOCA started to build up know-how in these departments to be prepared for the demand from the industry. This knowledge building is very important. Switzerland, with the Technical University, mainly ETH Zürich and the EFPL, and industry is in the Champions League when it comes to artificial intelligence. On the industry side, we have several spin-offs from the university developing applications for aviation, mainly for US application like inspections and mapping. But one Zurich-based company must be mentioned here at SASOC, and that's the Dilian. Together with EASA, the concept of design assurance for neural networks was published already in May 2021. The same year, in November 2021, the neural network-based runway landing guidance for general aviation auto-land report was published then. So the STC, the supplemental type certificate for the installation of the visual landing guidance, is currently under certification at the EASA, and the approval is expected for 2025, next year. So, very briefly, I hope I could give you some information about AI and the status of regulation at the European level, also in comparison with the FAA, and also the status on the regulation on the regulation level here in Switzerland. With this slide, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any specific operational questions, please contact me during lunch break. Thanks a lot. So now we're gonna start with the Q&A session. So please, Christian.
Yes, Mark. And Dominic, thank you very much for this highly topical contributions. Are there any questions in the plenum? So we can use this time in the meantime, because Christian Hegner, our director, is on approach and will be arriving in about 5 to 10 minutes. Any questions concerning GPS, spoofing, jamming, AI? This seems not to be the case. Well, in this case, I play the icebreaker. Mark, how about GPS jamming or spoofing in Switzerland, in Swiss airspace?
Well, yeah, thanks for your question. We have rarely seen any incident in Switzerland, so I would say 99.7% of all this jamming, mostly jamming incidents, are in those crisis areas which were shown by Fritz and Dominic. But yeah, I would say that's really seldom that we have such cases. And I also have to mention here, most or almost every case is without safety effect because of all those mitigation measures which are already in place. But still, as Dominic was showed also on the chart, we have to have mid-term mitigation measures further on, and even long-term mitigation measures. But in Switzerland, it's not a big issue.
Okay, and I have another one. I'm well prepared. Dominic, last year we heard about this mysterious 5G interferences problems. This year it seems to be disappeared. How do you describe the situation today?
Just wait 2-3 weeks now. Yeah, so in Switzerland, you know, we were working together with Backholm and really did some measurements and analyses, and saw that even so you see 5G antennas very close to the runway sections, runway 14 and 16. We have no occurrences in this area because we have quite a low power consumption regards to the United States. But we soon will have more frequencies even closer to so 5G will be coming even closer to the radio altimeters. So maybe it pops up again soon.
And did you manage to agree with telecommunication companies how to deal with this issue? Or?
Well, to be fair, you know, our radio altimeters should have a bandwidth like this, and they have a bandwidth like this. So it's always a bit, you know, is it the telecom industry or is it the aviation industry? So our equipment from the 80s, 90s, they should have a sharper bandwidth, and actually then we could coexist. So from a technical side, we are more looking into better radio altimeters with a sharper bandwidth. Spoofing, jamming, maybe, just maybe some of you experienced that. So if you were in an area of spoofing, Tel Aviv, for instance, almost every aircraft that goes out of Tel Aviv gets spoofed at the moment. When you then 3-4 hours later come back into the Swiss airspace, you maybe get a ground proximity warning. Don't know if somebody experienced that. Or you don't want to say?
At least Swiss should say yes.
Some hands should come up now. Oh, that's like things, you know, that so far the avionics was not like built to have a spoofing attack and then keep on flying, so that we just see some anomalies, that if you were spoofed and somehow the position got locked into system, much later in the flight, going through transition altitude, selecting from standard to QNH or whatever, the avionics makes some checks before you go into approach. It can trigger sometimes a false ground proximity warning system. So operators like Swiss Edelweiss, they of course adapted their procedure, as I said before, and inform the crew already now that this can happen. And you know, normally if you have a ground proximity warning system, you need to follow. While under certain criteria like this, maybe you don't follow.
Maybe I would have a question here also for Dominic. I mean, there are different.
That's not fair.
Yeah, sorry for that. There are different players. There are different players in the field here. Who's in the driver's seat? Is there something like BACOM, FOCA? We have the different OEMs. We have operator. It seems a little bit. I mean, the question is, who is really in the driver's seat here?
But for which area now?
For the mitigation measures in the long, especially in the long term.
It's I cannot say for the moment. It definitely is somewhere in the UVEC for Switzerland, and we are continuously discussing that with BACOM also.
Okay.
And yeah, as I said before, so in Switzerland, all the events that were spoofing were actually non-spoofing. So even there was really just jamming going on. Spoofing so far not.
Well, okay. If there are no more questions from the audience, I just saw that our director, Christian Hegner, has been arrived, and I would like to pass the micro to you, Christian. Be welcome to the SASOC. Good morning.
Es läuft. Ziemlich viel Flutlicht. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the second Swiss Aviation Safety and Operations Conference, SASOC in short. I hope you will forgive me. I missed giving the welcoming address at the start of the event because I was busy this morning answering questions from the Finance Committee of the Council of States about our 2023 accounting report. SASOC, as you know, was created as a platform for exchanging information and knowledge within the Swiss aviation industry. And the conference was held in this form for the first time in May 2022. So, it's a very young event. That's another reason why I'm delighted that over 200 of you have made your way to Bern today and to the Zentrum Paul Klee. I think that shows there is a clear need for this event. What I have to tell you today is not groundbreaking, but it's very important. It is something we all know. The three most important things in aviation are safety, safety, and more safety. Joking aside, safety in aviation is a bit like our health. As long as we are feeling okay, we don't even think about our health. It's only, it's only when there is a problem, backache or sore knee, that you realize that nothing really works if you are not in good shape. And it's exactly the same in aviation. The presentation you have just heard from our top safety and risk manager, Mark Keusch, didn't identify any major ailments in Switzerland over the past year. But the system as a whole is under great stress. There are more reports, more GPS disruptions, more issues with drones, more laser attacks. In total, our office processed around 10,000 incidents last year and took an action where necessary. Similar to a medical check, reports, data and information from commercial and non-commercial civil aviation give us an indication of the weaknesses in the system. Last year's analysis revealed that we need to focus on collisions. In this context, we simply have to talk about Avistarat and the transponder obligation, more to this later. Another focus in the risk of collisions is the risk of collisions at Zurich Airport. The operating system at the country's largest airport is complex. A raft of measures is needed, such as runway extensions, the taxiway routing around runway 28, and the ongoing revision of the operating regulations to further reduce the risk of a collision. However, this year has also shown that even a seemingly healthy system is not immune to sudden accidents. There have been 6 accidents involving Swiss-registered helicopters since the start of the year, exactly in the last 6 to 8 weeks. 3 people have lost their lives. For the time being, no structural cause can be identified. However, whether the tragic helicopter accidents this spring are the result of more serious affliction will become clear in the coming months once the STSB has concluded its in-depth investigation. At the time when everyone is talking about self-optimization, let's think about what we actually need to do to make our aviation system as healthy and fit as possible and to keep it that way. We need to be in good physical shape, which means we need skilled workers. The Swiss job market in general and the aviation industry in particular has a high demand for skilled workers. That is why the State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, SECO, pursues a skilled labour policy to exploit and promote domestic skilled labour potential wherever possible. As the shortage of skilled labour affects not only the FOCA, but the entire DTEC, our head of department, Bundesrat Albert Rösti, has discussed this issue with the president of ETH Zurich. Possible forms of intensified cooperation were considered. Here at the FOCA, we are naturally limited in what we can do to counteract the shortage of skilled workers in aviation. We face the challenge here too. In order to recruit qualified staff, we need to promote careers in the aviation industries. Today, we take on more university interns than in the past. And our specialists also regularly attend careers events to promote FOCA and the aviation sector. Last year, our office also took part in various workshops with industry representatives and the umbrella organization SwissMem. Solutions and alternatives were devised to find sufficient numbers of qualified specialists, especially for the maintenance sector of our industry. As well as having a healthy body, we also need a healthy mind, the right mindset. You guessed it, just culture. The just culture is a culture of trust. Errors can be reported without the person reporting or being reported having to fear any consequences, provided they have not acted irresponsibly. Instead of simply disciplining those responsible, weaknesses in the system need to be identified and eliminated. However, the logic of just culture, which is perfectly reasonable in itself, may conflict with the criminal law and the principle of equality under the law. We are currently working on introducing the just culture principles laid down in European law into Swiss law. By doing so, we are striving to offer those concerned the best possible protection against unjustified prosecution without violating the fundamental legal principles just mentioned. As you can imagine, this conflict of objectives is not easy to resolve and demands compromise. The Federal Council's consultation on the revision of the Aviation Act is currently scheduled to begin in late summer. You will hear more details on this topic this afternoon from my colleagues Mark Keusch and Reto Dubach. I would like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to you and everyone else in the aviation community who reports a safety-relevant incident to the FOCA. It is right and important to do so. This is the only way we can learn from our mistakes and improve aviation safety in a targeted and cooperative manner. So, we have taken care of the body and the mind. It's now time to turn our attention to our environment. We need resilient air traffic control. As you may have gathered from the media, the last 2 years at Skyguide have been not without technical hitches. For us as a government office, this means we need to take a closer look. We increased our level of supervision after the incident in June 2022. Following the most recent issue in February, we set up a task force made up of people from both the FOCA and Skyguide. This task force provides us with an overview of current developments in technology and operations. I would like to take this opportunity to emphasize that safety in Swiss airspace is and has always been assured. We are confident that once Skyguide systems have been reorganized and upgraded, the series of technical issues will also come to an end. Speaking of a stable environment, in general terms, we need good infrastructure. You are probably familiar with the Swiss Airspace and Aviation Infrastructure Strategy, or Avistrat for short. The FOCA is reorganizing Swiss airspace and aviation infrastructure in a participatory process. The aim of the program is to reduce the risk associated with the use of airspace in Switzerland. In addition, the airspace, a scarce resource, should be used as effectively as possible in the most environmentally friendly way. The program is currently being implemented. There are two priorities. Firstly, the organization of the Swiss aerodrome system. This will be implemented by the industry, by you. But we will monitor the process and provide support. By the end of the year, the aerodromes should know how they want to position themselves in the future. Secondly, the optimization of airspace structure and management. The FOCA is currently working on this. By then, we will also have identified solutions and made recommendations on how airspace users can use equipment to gain access to airspace. To this end, we are in close dialogue with the Air Force, air traffic control, airports, and the aviation industry. To make airspace safer, we need to make certain changes to the way we use our airspace. We are currently working with a group of FOCA experts on how all airspace users can be made visible in the future, and also on how the various systems can communicate with each other. We do not want to develop a FOCA solution. In addition to our experts, all FOCA employees, some of whom are also airspace users themselves, and you, the stakeholders, are invited to contribute to this solution. As you can imagine, this work will take some time. In the meantime, we will not be able to avoid the introduction of mandatory transponders in the medium term. We have had too many accidents and incidents in the last 10 to 15 years that could have been avoided with a transponder obligation. I personally advise you to install a transponder now and not wait for it to become mandatory. Because currently you can still apply for subsidies for transponder retrofitting. Please do not see the obligation as an annoying obstacle. On the contrary, the transponder is an aid that will not obstruct safety, but rather increase it. Lastly, we need a clear way forward, a bigger plan for the future, the European Plan for Aviation Safety, or EPAS for short. This aviation safety plan for EASA member states sets out the strategic priorities and main risks for the European aviation system. It also sets out the measures required to minimize these risks and improve flight safety. The plan is being developed by EASA in close consultation with EASA member states and industry. EPAS is the basis for the Swiss Aviation Safety Plan, the SASP. The SASP defines Switzerland's strategy for managing aviation safety. It outlines the most important issues in aviation safety at the moment and defines the government measures that will improve safety. We published the latest version at the end of last year. If we manage to get fitter in these 6 mentioned areas, we will have already achieved a great deal for the health of our aviation system. Of course, this is not the end of the story. New issues will come up all the time. I'm thinking of drones, U-space, and cyber security. In the future, we will collect even more information and data in order to be able to correctly assess the risks in these areas as well. Yesterday, we published our annual safety report. As already stated in the press release, we want to remain vigilant and sensitive to changes in the Swiss aviation system. How can we achieve this? By keeping the best possible overview of trends and risks and acting with foresight to avoid the worst. The message remains the same, and as I said at the beginning, it's not groundbreaking, but it's important. Our greatest responsibility as a supervisory authority is the safety of Swiss civil aviation. We hope that with this conference today we can make a substantial contribution to maintaining and continuously improving this safety. Thank you for your attention, and with this in mind, stay healthy. Now I hand over to my colleague Christian Schubert, who will wrap up this morning. He will provide you with vital information both for lunch and for the program in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christian, for your interesting and important statements. Let me give you some brief information concerning this afternoon's program. We have organized 5 workshops taking place in 5 separate seminar rooms displayed here. And I hope you find well after the lunch break. We're about 20 to 30 minutes ahead schedule, and I suggest to start with the workshops at 1300. If this is okay, then you will gain more time for the weekend. Okay, I don't want to keep you any longer, and I thank you very much for your attention, a good appetite, and interesting workshop in the afternoon. Thank you.